Good morning, crafters. Welcome to my channel, Margaret Knob Designs. We are going to get started on our tutorial number 3 for our Ireland Forever 6x6 or 6.5 by 6.5 mini album. And we're going to get through probably the rest of the pages, and the only thing that's going to be left for the final tutorial is basically just talking through the pocket for the back and some decorations. So I have done a couple different things for this mini album as well. I told you in the last one though that I was going to cover the flaps, so I've gotten those all covered and that's all set to go. Oops. So those are all set. And then I finished off on this page. I found some other brads that I had, and I decided to, rather than locking these in, what I was going to do was to put another brad onto here, and then this moves up like that. And actually our magnet is right underneath there, and I just put our paper on the inside of these, and then it closes shut like that. This one comes down, and this has a different one and is like that. So that keeps our 4 tabs closed. One of the things that I do sometimes when I am making a cover for a magnet, this is actually a layered piece of three pieces of cardstock, and so I use one solid round piece, and then I use a piece where I punch out the middle, and then I punch out the circular piece around it. So then I stack up 2 with their holes out and 1 to top it off. And when I do that, it can go right over our magnet like that. And so going over our magnet, I then put this on top of the black piece as well as the magnet, and it's not very visible. It looks more like a piece of ephemera that I've put on the book. So that's how I did that with the magnets on that. And then I started on this page, and I'm going a little bit off book to what I had done in the past, but let me show you what I've done. So I have a long flap on here, and I've covered that, and I've got a magnet on here, magnet here. But then we have this twist and pop, I guess it's called. So I would like to show you how to make this. I made this a little bit smaller, and we've got our 4 pictures on there, and we've got our background. The thing that I would do differently on this next time around is I would lay my pattern paper down, 2 of them on either side, just so, and then put this on top of it. But it still worked out fine. I'll show you how I have it all mapped out for putting that down. But let me show you how to do this twist and fold part of the mini album. So I'm going to use this piece in here just because it makes it easier for a visual. So first of all, what I've done is I've taken some extra pieces of cardstock, and what I want to show you how to do this is basically the simplest way to look at a twist and fold or pop and twist kind of piece in an album is that you need to make sure that this section, the width of it, is at least a ½ inch away from the top and the bottom of this, as well as a ½ inch away from here. You know, this is the shortest flap, so it has to be a ½ inch away from here, a ½ inch away from here, and that's the width that you can make them. And then you're going to cut out 2 pieces that are the exact same width. And when you do that for this pop and twist, the 2 scores that you're going to make on this is you're first of all going to score it in half this way, And then you are going to take and score it in half this way. And then that's the 2 folds or 2 scores that you have to make. Once you've made those 2 scores, you're going to have it like this, and you are going to take your piece and fold it vertical so that it matches up with this score line, and then crease it down. And then you're going to turn it over, and you're going to match it up to that. And then once you've done that, you then can pull this out, and you've got all your scores. And what you do is you pull in this middle piece like this and flatten that down. Then burnish these corners. And one of the things that I had seen another crafter do, and I like the way that they did this, is they cut the tip of this off, because then it fits in better to the inside of the flap. It goes a little bit more flush to the inside of the flap. So then what you're going to do in order to get this flap on here is you're going to put some glue onto here. You really don't want the glue to go further than what this is, but put the center of this up to how you want it. Put the glue on here, then bring that over and glue it down. And then bring this over, put your glue onto here, and you're going to close it and glue it down to here. And then once you have that glued on, you're going to see that this fits right in the middle. This is where your fold is. But when you put this together, what you're actually going to do is you're going to take your second piece. This is a 12-inch piece of paper, and you can make it longer or shorter depending upon what you have. You'll just have to, use a, seam them together is really what it is. So this piece, you're just going to equally score it so that there is 4 pieces. And once this is in the book, you're then going to take this top piece and glue it to here, just in the corner. You're going to take this bottom piece and glue it into this corner, and you then have your flap. And what happens is this comes out like this when you open it up. Or if you want to have it, no, I think you have to have it out. So this will all flap out for you, giving you a spot for your pictures. So I hope that wasn't clear as mud. I hope that was, you could see how that was done. It's so much easier than what it appears to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on getting our papers onto the rest of our album, and we'll get that done. I've got my papers and flaps and things prepared, so let me get this all set for us. Let's see where I am at. All right. So what we are going to be doing here is I've got the paper for the inside, and I'll give you those measurements in just a moment, but let's do the front of this page first. And what we're going to be doing is covering this with some of the pattern paper, and we are also going to be adding some pockets to this as well. So this pocket is 4.5 by 5.75, and then what I did is I scored at 1/2 inch. I scored at 1/2 inch, and then when I took the square, I marked off 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches up, and then I put it into my cutter and I sliced off the edge. And then when I took the pattern paper, I put the pattern paper, this is what we're laying down on top. I put that through, the pattern paper through there, and I drew my pocket on there. So then when I had my pencil lines on my paper, I cut inside my pencil lines. And then I took just about 1/16 of an inch off here, 1/16 of an inch off here, and what happens is it then fits onto our pocket perfectly. If your lines are off, if things are not matching, you never ever want to cut off of here, off here, or off here. If you need to change up, you need to cut off the bottom here or off of this side in order to help with your edging. So let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's do this pocket. So yes, some of the things are changing a little bit. In this album, I'm making things probably a little bit more interactive than in my first 6x6. And that's just because, you know, I have a hard time doing the same thing over and over and over again. I always like to try something a little bit different. So sometimes when I'm doing an album, something might not work out perfectly, but like I always say, it's a creative opportunity or an opportunity to find out how to do something else. So that's what we're doing. I just want to... Okay. And then our second pocket that I have here, this was cut at 4 by 3.75. And I measured up 1 inch here and 1 inch across here, and then a 1/2 of an inch scored, 1/2 of an inch scored, and of course I mitered the corners on both pockets. I forgot to say that on the other one. Once I measured up and then cut from this 1 inch to this 1 inch and sliced that off. I then took my paper and put that underneath, measured it around, cut it appropriately, and then made that match onto my pocket. So just like that. All right. Had it down perfect, and then I ended up moving it. And of course, all of these pieces I also edged with my vintage photo to give it a little bit of that distressed look. Alrighty, so what we are going to do then is we are going to take this pocket and it's going to go on our matting piece. Make sure I've got that the right direction. And we are also then going to put this pocket onto this spot. Now, the one thing with the pockets is that you can do and change directions of them, so you have to be careful when you're cutting things out to make sure that it all matches up appropriately. So we're going to take all of this. I'm going to do one pocket at a time, and I'm going to do this right up against my paper. It'll keep them laying a lot flatter. And it's not the same thing as what I did with the other with the other flaps that I worked on before. The other flaps I worked on before were in covering over something that was double the width, or depth of that. So this will work perfectly. The reason why I like doing it this way around the pattern paper is because the pockets are easier to slide things in and around, and it's not like your tags will get caught on the bottom flaps. So that's the reason why I like doing it this way on the matting. I just want to make sure I'm up as tight as I can get without buckling my paper. Oh. Go. So then we have our page set, and I'm going to put our glue on this side. Sorry for that scratching noise, I apologize. All right. This is a little bendy, only because of the fact that I have the twist and pop flap inside. And so it does make it a little bit bulky. But when it's all said and done, it'll work out just fine. So now we have the two pockets, and I will make tags for inside these pockets and add that on. And then this will close like this over our flap to keep that closed. And then we're going to go to the inside to finish this off. And what I did with this is I took and matted these items, oops, the wrong way, yep, so that these items fit into here exactly. And basically, in order to mat this down, what I did is I essentially put a piece of the pattern paper down. I measured from here to, right underneath here, and measured from here to underneath here, and then I ended up cutting out a pocket. But next time, like I said, what I'm going to do is I will be taking this and putting this flat down. Each one of these pieces are going to go down ahead of time, so it's a full sheet. It doesn't really matter one way or the other if you do that or if you do it this way. Either way works. It's just the other way, by putting 2 full sheets down, when I have enough paper and I don't really have to conserve my paper per se, just makes it a little bit easier when getting mats all set together. So before I put this down, this measurement from here to here was 1 1/8, and from the top to here was 1 3/8 for me. And this piece that I cut here was, what was this one? Oh, this piece that I cut for down here, and out of the middle, was 5 7/8 by 3 1/2. So I'm going to fit this right into here. And then let's go and fit this side in here. Just want to make sure my writing is the right way up. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, I do not have ephemera for this paper pad. And one of the things that I was going to do is I was looking at some digital papers where I could maybe cut some items out of that. But then I started thinking about things that I have in my stash. And one of the things that I started to think about is, you know, this is a lot of distress look and kind of old-fashioned look to it overall. And so what I thought was, you know, I have a lot of the Tim Holtz ideology tags and things here like this. I had been looking at those, and a lot of other ones as well. And I thought, you know, I need to use my stash. So that's what I decided to do for some of the for the patterns. I wanted to go ahead and use things from my stash. So I'm just going to encourage you that if you're making a 6x6 album, and let's say you don't have ephemera pieces, or you don't have you know, like stickers or things, or cards or whatever, you know, take a look at your stash before you start thinking about buying something new. And no, I'm not the most conservative when it comes to those kinds of things. I just thought, you know, it's about time I started using some of those things that I bought and loved. One of the other things that I did here, now as I'm putting this pattern paper down onto this flap, and the reason why I'm using patterned paper is, number one, I have enough. Number two is this paper is a little bit thinner than the cardstock I normally use. So again, trying to just keep some of the bulk down. That's my purpose in that. And number three, I think it looks pretty good. So I liked that. I tried to cut these pieces from a continuous piece of pattern paper. So without the pictures put on there, it looks like it can be somewhat of a continuous design. And the other thing is that you can put the pattern paper on here as, you know, before you even put it or glue it all together. I just left it because I wanted to be able to show you what this was, or, you know, how it looked in here without anything on it. So the other thing, these this twist and pop. This is also 12 inches all the way across, but what I did is the photo corners or pieces, it was scored 3 different ways. So it was 3.5, and I believe these are 3. Yes, they're 3. So 3.5 by 3 photo opportunities that can be put onto here. We're going to close that up, and we'll close that up. And not 100% sure why I cut this one, but let me just put that off to the side for now. All right, so the next thing that we're going to be doing is working on these flaps. And what I decided to do with these flaps was put this together. Oh, is this the right one? Sorry. All right. Okay, I got to figure out what I've got here again. I kind of confused my own self, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and unconfused. So what we're going to do right now is take a magnet and we're going to stick it down onto our flap here. Okay, come off my thumb. Oh, stick to my finger. We'll get that down. And then let's put our other items on here. So what I have here is I have a pocket. And oh shoot, I probably should have put that up a little higher. Yeah. There we go, that's a little better. I should have thought of that. So I'm first of all going to put my pocket down, and my pocket on the inside here measures 7 inches, and then I scored at a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, mitered my corners. And then the pocket is 3.5 inches, and I mitered at a 1/2 inch here. And then we are going to take this and put this down onto our page. The reason why I'm not putting this around the piece of pattern paper is because I wanted to use this piece, and it wasn't long enough to do the whole page. So I just opted for it to be a little bit shorter, but it still worked well with my next page and with my pocket. So that was the reason for that decision. And make sure that your pocket is still able to, your flap is still able to close in both spots. And then this is our piece of pattern paper that is going to go into the spot. I'm having a tough time with this piece here. Let me just make sure I get this down good. All right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put this paper and this paper down, going across like this. Oh, it doesn't look like I... All right. You know, I really like this paper. It's what I like about it is that it's not too thick, but it's still very, very sturdy, and it scores well and handles really well in the book. And it's really, really a nice hand feel to it as well. So like I said, the next time I come back, I am going to have tags ready for the mini album, and we will do the final part in the back of the book. But the other thing to remember, I still have my giveaway going on. I'm getting closer to my 1,000 subscribers, and like I said, this is going to go on to number 1 till my 1,000 subscribers. Is my number 1 goal. If I get my 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month, it'll end on March 31st. If I get them after the end of the month, then I will be running it till that comes. So like, share, subscribe to this post, and help me reach my goal. And to be very honest, once I reach 1,000 subscribers, it's not really so much anything about me, because I also have to have 4,000 watch hours before I can monetize anything on my channel. So it's just a goal I've set for myself. So then we're going to take this sheet, and it's going to go down on this flap. And this sheet, let me measure it for you. Basically, you know, these sheets can be whatever you would like it to be. If you want this to be more of a feminine touch to the mini album, you can, what I've done before on some of the other areas of these flaps is I've taken them and used one of my border punches, you know, border punches, border dies, whichever works better, and just border punched along there. So, but my flap here is 5 3/4 by 6 1/8. So just making your mat 1/8 of an inch smaller. So then we go to these next pages, and on these next pages, what I decided to do was to add flaps to them, and we're going to go ahead and do that, as well as adding our magnets onto that. I'm going to have to grab some other magnets, I think. Let me check my stash here. The other thing with either one of these, you can go ahead and you don't have to use magnets on these. You can use ribbons and ties for closing them. Like on this one, what I would have done if I was going to use a ribbon on this, oops, this is not staying glued down. Let me just fix this. I think I might have moved it too much before it had time to dry. So I'm going to do this to hold on to that, make sure that corner stays put and stays drying. See my fancy tools I have? All right, so that'll stay. What was I saying? Oh, for this one, I could have put a ribbon underneath here and a ribbon here, and I could have tied it with a ribbon. But I didn't want to tie with a ribbon because I wanted this to be not necessarily masculine, but more of dual purpose. You know, it could go masculine, it could go feminine, depending upon what you, how you wanted to make that work. So, sorry about the noise here. Just need to get a few more magnets out, otherwise I won't have enough. And like I said, there are many ways that you can go ahead and you can make these work without the magnets. You can definitely take them and use tabs. You saw how I did the other tabs on my book with my brads and my piece of paper. I did use, I used magnets on that too. But you could also, you know, use string to make a button to make that fit. So these pieces were 6 by 6, and I scored at 1/2 inch. So in order to make the flap, and the other side is the same thing, 6 by 6. And then I'm also going to be putting some matting on here that is for photos. I am going to be using some plain cardstock as we move forward in the rest of this album because I wanted to make this more of a photo layout. So now remember, our pages here are 6 1/8 by 6 1/8, and that's why I made this one 6 by 6 and scored it 1/2 inch. It gave us some room between our pages, and then it also gave us some room along the edges there. So we are going to go ahead and put this down onto our page. And this is, again, just a flat mat that is 1/8 inch shorter than our cardstock. And we are going to go ahead with, let's see what I've got here. It's my other page. And so we're going to go ahead and let's put our other page onto the other side. Then let's put our magnets down. Miter those corners. That way it just helps with the pattern, with it not sticking out underneath the pattern paper. right, so now what we're going to do is let's get our magnets on here. Get this down. Got that. My photo mats are 4x6, and most of the edges that I'm going to put on and around the photo mats is 1 7/8. Basically what I had done with these pages is I wanted to make them so that I had photo mats all the way across, depending upon what I wanted to do. And so I've got to lay these out again and just make sure. Ooh. Here I've got a smaller one. All right, I'm actually going to turn the camera off just because I've got to figure out how I had these laid out again. I don't want to sit here and have you watch me do this because it might take a few minutes. So I'll be right back, and then I'll show you exactly what it looks like with the photo mats laid out. I'll be right back. Hey crafters, I'm back. So my lesson learned is next time that I cut those items out ahead of time, I need to number them. And I didn't do that this time. So I did go in and I finished putting my photo mats in and put my pieces in. So I have some different sizes. These aren't 4x6. They're a little bit shy of a 4x6. They are probably 4x5 3/8, I think. This ruler, 4x5 3/8. So 4x5 3/8. This is a 4x6. So you can get those down into your booklets, and I will come back, like I said, and put some ephemera in here so that it looks a little bit more jazzed up. Now, on this section, we're going to go to the inside of this one right away. And I also have a photo mat here, and I'm going to put in here a pocket that is just there in case you want to put something in the pocket, but it's not going to be permanent, and you know, it's not going to be a pocket that you can put big tags or booklets in. I want something just that was a bit flat. And we'll put that down onto here. So you'll be able to tuck a small tag or something into it, but nothing too big or heavy. And then we'll put our 4x6 photo mat down here as well. But first what I want to do is to get a magnet in here. So basically, I would say what I used for magnets was 1 pack and 4 out of this pack. So again, you can find some other ways to close these up. Like You could put a paper clip on here if you wanted that, and put a little doodad on the top of the paper clip. That would be real cute. A lot of different things you can do. Just don't think of it, if you don't like to use magnets, then there's many different ways. Closures, you can use a twist tag, and also button closures will work as well. All right, so we're going to get this piece in. All right, and then we've got this side. I am going to put this down because we have something special for the front. Did something again a little bit different, and I wanted to show you how I did that. Okay, we've got that, and then that closes there. On the front here, what I decided to do was to do something a little bit different. And what I wanted to do was to go ahead and put, oh, it goes this way, a picture frame on the front of here. And I wanted to show you how I did this. Basically what I did is I took a piece of cardstock. Where's my ruler? I cut out a piece of cardstock, and the finished frame size is 5 3/8, because remember, this flap was 5 3/4 by 6 1/8. So this is 5 3/8. The frame sizes of what I cut out here is I measured in 1 inch on the back of this. You can see my pencil marks. And I cut out a frame going 1 inch around on all of this. But on these, in order to make this frame so that it was open enough to be able to slide something in and out, I did do hinges on the sides. So basically, this was 5 3/8, but with a 1/2 inch hinge on either side. That would have then made this 6 3/8 by 6 1/2, because I have only 1/2 of a flap there. So I cut that. I cut those and scored those, mitered the back here, glued this down, and then for the covering on here is I made some strips of the pattern paper just a little bit longer than the length of these, but these are 7/8. And in order to get this type of mitering on the corners of my frame, what I like to do is to put them down so that they're matching across the corner. These are not glued all the way down, so that I can come in here and I can go right on the edge of my corner of my frame to cut through this to give us a mitered corner. Sometimes I do really, really well, and sometimes I'm a little bit off. And if I'm a little bit off, I just am. It's, this isn't rocket science. It's paper crafting, and you just do the best that you can do. And then those glue down. And they make a really nice corner. All right, let's do this one on this side, and then we've got them. Ugh, these are just sticking. I don't know why. Because I'm on camera, that's why, right? Ah. There we go. So then I'm just going to take the corner of my frame and I'm cutting from the angle of that right into the corner of my frame so that I can try to get that as mitered as possible. I'm not worried about leaving something along the edges. I'm not going along it and worrying about putting a vintage photo on it. They pretty much will cover each other, so it should be pretty clean in and of itself. If you have a little edge here that might look like it needs some vintage photo, you can kind of go in there and tap it, but just be careful. You don't want it to be on other sides or edges. So then that's our frame done, and this is just some packaging from one of my paper packages, and we'll end up putting this down. And let's just glue that down, and then we can work on the insert. What I usually do with the photo frames is I like to put an insert so that until somebody can put a photo on that insert, there's something, you know, a picture or something in there. So I'll show you what I'm going to do on that. So once I have this all together, I can put this down on my page. And it's just really about adhering it down. And because we have scored along the edges, or we have those hinges along the edges, it will give us enough room to, I'm going to do this side so I can get a better grasp on burnishing that. There we go. So now we have our matting down, and what we're going to do is I have a piece of cardstock that I cut to fit on the inside of that, and this piece of cardstock is 5 3/8 by 5 7/8. And what I did is that I took this and I measured this to make sure that my little girl was going to go into my frame, pretty much to the middle of the frame. So I'm going to put that down. But this piece in and of itself, this scrap piece that I had left over, was not long enough. So because it's going inside the pocket, I decided I could either leave it and not cover it, but I decided I wanted to cover it. So I have another piece of paper that I'm going to put on this tag. And then what I did for a pull on here is I just punched out a 3/4 inch circle on the front and the back. I could cover it with paper if I wanted to, but I decided I wanted to make it less noticeable. So I'm just going to leave it in the dark green cardstock, and I'm going to put this little piece towards the top of my matted section. All right, so we've got our mat finished, and this will then just slide right into our picture frame like that. And we've got our little girl right in there. So what we have left to do is the back pocket and some of the tags and ephemera going into the album, and then the front of this. I'm not going to do a lot to the front, but I probably would like to do something to the spine and something to the front. So those are a few things that we'll work on the next time we come back together. So that next one will be up this week, and we should be completely done with this mini album. And then this is going to be my prize for the giveaway. Some lucky winner from the United States or outside the country, whoever gets drawn for that. And remember that I will be putting the password. Make sure that the password gets put in the middle of your comment. So please like, subscribe, and comment down on the bottom, and I wish you good luck in the contest. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. Have an awesome day. Bye.